welcome to the Common Briefing Program. We are part of the Common Geeking Program, where at the beginning of each month, we recap the news. We always look back at the previous month of geek news, and we bring you the hottest headlines to deliver the most impactful, interesting, or important stories that we feel you need to know about. We top it off at the end by exerting our journalistic prowess and deciding a top story for the month. The thing that we think you should care about the most. Is that journalism?
Something like that.
No.
It's the closest thing we've ever done.
I don't think...
My name is Colin.
No, go ahead.
It's not.
It's not.
My name
I don't
is
think
Colin
it is.
Ketchen. I am the host of the Common Briefing Program. These episodes come out the first Friday of every month, and I am joined this month by returning correspondent
Austin Liebers. That's my title now, correspondent Austin Liebers. It's a pleasure to be here, Captain.
I could hear the whoosh of that salute in your microphone. And then I'm joined by Jeff. One more month, and you may become a correspondent yourself.
God, I'm gonna have to find something else that I care about next month.
It's okay. I honestly had a tough time this month too because I have been busy as shit with getting a new job and Dice Populi and just a lot of.
Well, there's a big old story this month.
Yeah, there is. There's one big story that I think I know what you're talking about, and I imagine we might just set aside some time to discuss that in general.
It was such a big story that I was like, oh, I can't bring that because I'm for sure going third and someone's going to bring it up before I do.
Oh, yeah? I'm not sure what story you guys are talking about at this point in time.
That's because you don't care as much about the story as I think we do.
No, I think you'll know it when you hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. But with that in mind, before we jump in, how are you two doing? How is your this is a Wednesday evening that we're recording this.
I'm living my life. I just got done teaching a class. So.
Nice.
Oh, hell yeah. Wait, you get to teach classes in that hoodie? What am I doing wrong with my life?
I'm wearing a substitute Pokemon hoodie for the audience who can only hear me.
Delightful.
Austin, what were you about to say?
I think most things are going pretty well. I may have sent an email to a listserv that was much larger than what I intended to. That happened today, I think. Or late last night, yesterday. I don't know. Everything's gonna be fine.
That's like the one time that my aunt meant to send an email to a bunch of my family members that was talking shit about my grandmother, but she accidentally CC'd my grandmother in on the email.
Yeah, luckily I wasn't talking shit. It was just business things, but not everyone needed to know about the business things.
Yeah.
So it was annoying at worst.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have something for you. In my many years working for Apple Incorporated, I was a retail employee, and I it's not normally the most glamorous way to describe it, but it's important because Apple has 70,000 retail employees, right? And it's been a bit of a rarity, at least toward the end of my tenure there, but sometimes people would try to send an email to their entire store group, and instead they would send it to every Apple retail employee.
No.
They just emailed Apple.
And so you get one email, and then you get 500, hey, I don't think I was supposed to get this message.
Oh my god, that reminds me.
And
one time...
and 80 people saying, don't hit reply all, don't hit reply all. And someone I knew working in my store who would just send gifts the whole time, just trying to fucking start up.
That happened one time in my undergrad at University of Rochester. Is the college sent out an email to everybody, but there was there's some function that enabled people to reply all to it where normally they wouldn't be able to. So then it just started this huge fucking spam chain where people were just sending fucking memes to everyone in the fucking college. It was a nightmare.
I loved it. That was my favorite thing to clock into work and just scroll through. I was just oh. It just felt like I was watching a TV show.
It started so many memes.
It was just just following the thread of people realizing that they are part of the problem every time. It's just, I don't know. It's, I love it. It's so
good. So, wait, no, what's the big story that...
So let's start with that. Well, I think we're each going to get our time to talk, but I think we're all going to have some hot takes on this big story because it's maybe outside of, important things. In the entertainment world, probably the biggest news of August 2019. Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. That's pretty big. It just
Yep,
that happened a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh,
it did,
so
but
passe.
Okay, so
That was last August, not this August.
So I'm gonna recap very briefly because everyone listening to this clearly doesn't know the story. In 2016, because Sony owns the film rights to use the character of Spider-Man, Kevin Feige and the folks at Marvel Studios and Disney made a deal with Sony to say, hey, you foot like almost all the money, we do like all the creative shit, and that way we can financially coexist and share the licensing to this character. And everybody was very happy about that. And then Spider-Man came out with his highest grossing, highest rated live action film ever, Spider-Man Far From Home.
And he got to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was...
Yeah. And it was a lovely endpoint to like follow up on Avengers Endgame, and then negotiations fell through to renew the licensing agreement, and Spider-Man is legally no longer allowed to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which means all the setup that they did for us kind of doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And
or at least as of right now, right? Like it's not like
as of right
it's
now,
not impossible for it to be picked back up, and they might be playing with each other, but.
They could be. It's interesting that Sony's stock took such a tumble.
Well,
and,
fuck that.
Clearly, Disney is.
Well,
the
yeah, but
aggressor
I
here.
think you got those things started. Like there's on Twitter the hashtag. There was like an anti-Sony hashtag going around.
Yeah.
Which I'm not one A to stick up for a large corporation or B to just peddle conspiracy theories, but I do wonder a little bit if Disney was like, oh yeah, we'd love it if people just hated Sony, and I don't know.
Yeah, because, to Disney's point, it puts pressure on Sony, and for Sony to give Disney what it wants. They are, weaponizing the fan base, either intentionally or not.
I am happy, though, that at least, a few days later, I started seeing a bunch of memes about, people saying, oh, I was originally blaming Sony, but then I realized it was all Disney's fault. Oh, no, what have I done?
Yeah.
And it's it's good to have at least seen some of that, but...
Yeah, some self-actualization on the fandom's part. But I guess I just kind of want to kick off some general discussion about this, because really the only news is they might start negotiating again soon, but we have no idea where that's going to go. In the meantime, all we know is Sony's going to keep making Spider-Man movies, Marvel's going to keep making Marvel Man movies.
Marvel Man. I do want to bring up some of the at least as I understand them and remember them, the facts of the situation is that what actually went down with this deal, as I understood it and for what I read, and feel free to correct me where I'm wrong, and probably am, Disney brought the deal back to Sony, and instead of getting the basically 5% of earnings on opening night that they had before, as well as merchandising rights, ?
I think they had
they had, but they have 100% of the merchandising profits, right? Sony doesn't have any
they brought the deal back saying, hey, what if we now just get 50% of everything? Is that right?
There's a lot of debate about what the percentage was. Some people say it was 20 or 30 or 50. But then there are also sources that say that Disney was also offering to foot the bill for the percentage that they would earn.
Right.
So that Disney wouldn't just get more money from it, but they would also put money into it. And there are so many conflicting reports. I don't know.
Yeah, that is also what I saw, that they wanted to contribute to financially, but they'd be I think that it did end up being a more profitable situation for Disney, which makes sense because that was they wouldn't propose something that was worse for them, and Sony was basically no, but we'll keep the original deal, and Disney said no to that. That's kind of my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing is Sony has needed a hit for a while to cut into their first $1 billion franchise like this, $1 billion movie in one of their most successful franchises. That has a lot more ramifications for Sony than it does for Disney, because Disney is the only, minus the sort of net loss they took on the Fox acquisition this year. They are the only consistently successful, profitable film publisher in the United States.
Right, but it's not just they make that the case, right? Like,
Yeah.
they pour so much money into things and go like advertising, taking advantage of star power, using people's nostalgia to create mediocre remakes of old movies, most notably The Lion King. I haven't heard a single good thing about that movie.
Really?
It was gorgeous.
I've heard a lot of
I
good
actually liked
things
it.
about it, and that's bothered me because I watched and I was just like,
yeah, but anyway, so like
my thing was that I don't know. We don't need to talk.
Yeah,
about
no,
the
they
Lion
just
King,
have
but I've got
the resources to make it the case that like if they have all of the top spots, of course other movie companies are going to suck.
Yeah,
entertainment.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's like appropriate leveraging for Disney. But okay, but business things aside, like I'm upset. Like I'm upset because
Tom Holland
going
is
into
great
the Marvel
and it was
Cinematic
going so many good places.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm kind of torn on it because like on the one hand, I really did like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I would enjoy to see him as more Spider-Man. But like I was getting a little bit frustrated with like the thinking about it over and over again, like just the way that they rebooted it to make to like they sort of hijacked Spider-Man's backstory to make Tony Stark his like father figure who is then responsible for all of his successes. And
the Tony Stark of it, that sort of got my goat a bit in Homecoming, not because I thought it was a bad decision for the story, but because I wanted more Spider-Man than Iron Man.
I didn't.
And Far From Home, I think, rectified that a lot. It felt much more Peter. I mean, I didn't because it wasn't about these other characters. It was about how he perceived the other characters.
I mean, personally, I didn't mind it in Homecoming because it was such like the start to it, but like then I was like, okay, well clearly they are changing his origin to be a lot more Tony centric, which is fine. I think it fits within the MCU as long as they get around to making it Spider-Man. And then by the time Far From Home came out, like I still loved the movie, but I agree that I was also kind of getting tired of like, does it really have to all be about Tony and what Tony did and like all the villains are Tony motivated? It's like
especially
Spider-Man,
since like it's not only like ruining Spider-Man's storyline, but I'm just still like I still don't think that Tony's character development makes him a hero to be idealized in the way that the movies seem to want to leave him. Like, oh, he sacrificed his life to save the universe and he's the hero and stuff. But like also we still never really got past the war criminal stuff in my mind. I don't know.
I think the movies did a good job of moving past that. I mean, that's the argument that I would make. But like that aside, I think the thing that upsets is like Marvel's got so much coming out with, Disney Plus has all this original shit on it, and then they have all these new movies that are coming out. And I almost just kind of want to say, like, I'm done. Yeah. Not out of, like, a butthurt sense, but out of this is the thing that made me more excited. Yeah. This is the thing that after I loved Avengers, I actually like Ultron a lot more than most people.
I loved Ultron. I don't know why people hate that movie so much.
And then they brought in the thing that made me care about it. Yeah. And every time that you saw him, it got more and more, like, emotionally necessary and, like, emotionally core to how this was presented and discussed, and that the business side says, no, we can't do that anymore. Sure, I get it. That's what the business side does. That's its function, is to determine what can be done. But for me as a fan, it's like, okay, well, you took away the thing that I cared about the most. You're about to integrate a bunch of new stuff into it, and who knows, like, what other things could, like, fall in or fall out. It's one of those things that once the trust is broken. And this sounds overdramatic, but it's like once someone in a position of power violates your trust, it's like tainted forever.
It should make this more blatant to any of us who like weren't already aware of like what Disney is actually doing here. Like they don't really care that much about the stories they're telling, aside from how they can use that to create large numbers in the box office.
Because I guess Kevin Feige, again, according to some of these reports, is really pushing to like get a deal to work. But I think it was Alan Horn, who's one of the board members of Disney, who was just kind of like either sick of it or didn't want to put that much money forward. And he just said, no, Kevin, you're done. You can't do that anymore. And so it's like the creatives want to do the creative stuff. But yes, Disney as an entity does not give a fuck. And it stinks, and I really hope that they find a way to work it out. But even so, like, my passion for this particular franchise has definitely been dulled a bit. But, at least it's at a good jumping off point.
I mean, part of me just kind of wishes it ended at Endgame, honestly. just because like I'm excited about all the stuff that's coming up. Well, not all of it, but I'm excited about a lot of the stuff that's coming up in the future for the franchise. But like I'm like, this long running franchise is kind of new grounds to tread, and I've got a sort of angst about it where it's like, well, if they keep going for too long, it's just gonna start getting bad, and it's gonna stop like having anything to do with the way it started and live in a different sort of world from itself, like a lot of TV shows do.
You think of it where like TV shows where this happens, where like later seasons you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Like Lost and Heroes.
Well, if you want to talk about like cross-platform franchises that deal with a lot of fatigue and declining quality, I'm a Star Trek fan. The MCU has happened before. I've been through it, and now we're in a Star Trek fucking renaissance. So let Marvel die with the death of Spidey, and in 15 years, it'll be great.
Well, I'm just saying, like, having things have a satisfying ending is a worthwhile thing sometime. And I think that Endgame was a satisfying ending, as much as I may be excited about, you know, like, Far From Home and like the next Guardians and Thor Love and Thunder. Like, it's all stuff I'm sure I'm going to enjoy, but like the farther that it goes on, the more I might just be like, can you just start telling new stories that maybe are in their own universe and let this one live as its little bubble? Well, you know, I get why they don't do it, but I don't know.
And I think this like it brings to the fore like how insidious their plan is. Where like, you know, at least when it was just a TV show, right, where you already paid a subscription to cable, or it was on a like a public access channel that you didn't care about. Right. So like when it's a TV show, you feel like you've invested time and effort into watching the show, and that's bad. But here you invest time and effort, and then you have to you know, I would never suggest that anybody pirate movies made by giant blockbuster studios because that's illegal.
Wink.
But I think that like I feel like if it doesn't happen more and more, people are just going to find themselves like increasingly committed to this franchise, this like the cinematic universe, right? Because they're like, they've got the sunk cost fallacy. They're like, I've put so much effort into and money into this story that like I need to see it through. But it's just sort of
it's
like
never going to have an ending.
Yeah, it's just sort of going until like the world burns up.
That's why, honestly, with this news, I feel like I'm not going to be the only one who is like, this is a great point to jump ship. Narratively, it's satisfying. They are changing the way it's running, and also like other things. Like I used to watch like every Rooster Teeth video that they put out, and then it got to a point where they put out so much shit, I was like, I don't have time. So I kind of fell off Rooster Teeth. Same thing happened with the Arrowverse. I would watch all the Arrow shows, and then I was like, I don't like half of these, and it's it's 4 hours a week. I'm done. Like, and with Disney Plus, with all the shows they're coming out with.
Once the quality started dipping to like, hey, everything is just an advertisement for the next big crossover episode. Like, it was so, because like it's funny because like the way that I think about like the Arrowverse and CW shows right now is like so different from how I thought about it during like, you know, Flash season 1 and Arrow season 1 and 2, where it's like, wow, I remember watching those shows and thinking like, wow, these are like really good. And now the way I think about it now is like, that whole franchise is just a huge dumpster fire, and it's like it's such a turn.
There's so much going on there. All right, well, I think that's a decent amount of time to dedicate to one singular topic. I have a feeling that's going to be our top story just for the scope of it, but like.
Oh my gosh.
But I would like to move on to some more journalistically integral information.
Oh man!
Well, you should probably go to Austin first.
Oh man, guys, this is kind of a more of a niche one, but I've been super excited about it. Not because I think
I really hope the audience can hear the smile
important.
I can see.
So in August, Smash Ultimate released the Hero of Light fighter, the hero.
Did
from
you bitch
the
about
Dragon
this one
Quest
on
games.
an earlier briefing program?
When I said like
when it was
they
announced
it.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, it became so much bigger once they actually released it, because it's caused
Is he out?
so much. Yeah, he's out, and he's caused drama. He's the
Are you
first
talking
character
about
in
his
Smash
orientation?
Ultimate that
he's out and he caused drama. The way you said it was just very
No, I
in
understand,
that
but I'm just like in the story here, okay? So when we saw the preview stuff
too
for
deep.
him,
We gotta
he
pull
looks
him
like
out.
he's just another sword character. He does some magic shit, and we're like, yeah, that's Dragon Quest. Okay, whatever. But as soon as he was actually released, people learned how he worked and how you play him, and suddenly competitive smashers on several different continents were just like, no, we need to ban this guy. I hate it.
He's like really OP.
Well, kind of, but not really. The problem that they have with him is that there are a lot of mechanics that Hero uses which are completely random. So he's got Hero has like an MP bar.
The Smash Brothers sandbox doesn't seem particularly accommodating to RNG.
Yeah, well, here we go. Let me introduce you to some of the things that he does.
Okay.
So it's got the Hero has an MP bar which goes down as you use special moves.
Okay.
And so this seems like more of a skill-based thing where, like, you charge up the normal B attack, you shoot a ball of fire, it uses an amount of MP related to how long you charged it up. Similarly for the his recovery, like, makes this whirlwind that shoots him up in the air, but it does less as you use less MP on it, and if you try to recover with no MP, you're shit out of luck. However,
it's like a stamina bar?
Kind of. But it, like, Magicka points, you could think of it, or mana points. I don't play Dragon Quest, so I don't know what it actually stands for.
All the DLC characters are too fucking complicated.
No. But this is, see, like, you think that's complicated, but it's no more complicated than Robin is already.
Yeah, I don't like Robin for that same reason either.
But
even Shulk is too much for me.
Heroes Down B opens up a menu that goes over your character portrait. So you look at a menu. And what's on this menu, you might ask?
Mid-gameplay, you pull up a menu.
Like a menu, it just covers your character portrait, so your character stops moving and, like, puts his hand on his chin, and you're in a menu. Other people can't attack you while you're doing this, and so they can knock you out of it. Anyway, so the menu. There are 4 options on the menu. These are random options chosen from a pretty large pool of different things. And once you choose an option, he does a special move. So there's a pretty large pool. Some of the options...
You mean the menu is different every time you open it?
Yeah, I mean, there's finite number of combinations, but yes.
Okay, but, like, it's not the same thing,
no, it's not
and then the
same
things have a random
It's
effect.
a menu with 4 items on it, and you get to choose one of those 4 items.
Oh my god.
The Pokemon player in Jeff is so stressed out right now.
That's all I want. It's just 4 options. I don't need any more.
So that's random. And some of the options are absurdly powerful. There's a self-destruct spell that you can, which will kill you, but at almost any percent, it can KO other players depending on where you are on the map. It'll just, like, pause you. There's a little wind up, and then you explode, and so does everyone else who's within, like, a pretty large radius. So there's an even better version of that, which is called Magic Blast, where you just, like, the character, like, has this big purple sphere of magic expand around it that's, like, absurdly powerful, and it just kills things within a large radius. There's some that are slightly useless, like one that turns you into metal. You just can't do anything for a couple seconds, but you're also invincible, unless there's another option that you can get called Metal Slash, where you just do a slash with your sword, but it'll kill anyone who is currently made of metal who gets hit by it. So weird stuff like that. There's one that shoots you up into the air and then down out of the air on the other side of the screen.
How are you supposed to learn
exactly.
that?
So this is the problem with competitive Smash.
There's 70 characters in Smash.
But there's even better. There is one option called Hocus Pocus, which will randomly assign you one of the effects from any of the other spells. So you can just choose that if you want to do a Hail Mary.
I feel like that should just always be an option, honestly.
I
feel like the whole move should just be that.
I feel like there should be a Hocus Pocus button. Not at least take the agency out of it. Jeff doesn't believe in that.
Right. Like limited agency. Like Yeah, it's like, like Mr. Game & Watch's hammer that you have like the 1 to 9 thing, right? Like that's fine. So if it was just something like that, but like with different effects, but you really didn't have any control over it, but like...
Yeah, but like the variation in what the effects do and how useful they are is so wild. Like there's one, you can put an enemy to sleep and then just go charge up a smash attack, kill them. Also, there's like, you can get spells that'll buff your speed, or give your attacks a chance to do critical hits. So that'll just kill people at like 40%.
Would you say that the hero is a playable character while completely ignoring this function? Or does he need it to really be viable at all?
No, so I think like hero's playable. You can do stuff with his other abilities and things. It's just that so people have a problem with the down B because it's anti-competitive in that it puts players in situations where like
there's nothing they could do.
Like there's no way to play around something because even the person who's playing hero could not have foreseen what they were about to do.
I'm betting that on the design side because one of the big things is in a game like this, every move needs to be telegraphed to the other players so that they can see what's happening and react to it. I bet on the design side they were thinking, oh, if we put the menu on the screen, then everybody can see it. But I feel like in practice that puts it
basically
puts an
like
undue burden on the other player, and it also requires everybody to memorize this ridiculous thing and be prepared for all the variations.
Yeah,
it's basically like playing against someone with the fucking 5 pieces of goddamn Exodia in their Yu-Gi-Oh deck, right?
Yeah, there's not a lot of interaction. Because once you see someone pull up the menu, you have to make a decision whether or not you are close enough them out of it. You have to decide whether the options that are on their menu are dangerous enough that you should react to them in a way that is offensive or defensive. You need to know how to play around each of the different moves. Some of them seems kind of impossible.
Yeah, that's fucked, because if you want to just main a character and only know that character and just like know the general basics about the other characters, you're basically like required to know a fucking encyclopedia about this one guy just because someone might be using him at some point.
Yeah, so
like, that's kind of screwed up.
Also, like, a lot of the options seem super powerful. Like, if the character had reliable access to them at every moment, it would be like obvious. It would be a very obvious ban just for being overpowered. But the randomness also like takes away from people's ability to play competitively, and that's a whole thing. Which I can agree with. But on the other hand, it's also fun to watch like pro Smash players get mad because so many of them are just like not great.
Well, yeah, it's always fun to watch someone get mad because something isn't happening the way they think it should be happening. And, like, I've been that guy playing games. I'm like, no, you're supposed to do it this way. You can't play Samus every time. Like, that sort of thing, so.
Yeah, but also, I think, like, this is another thing where it's like the character seems overpowered, probably he's definitely on the stronger side, right? And like is a very flashy character and is probably going to be very popular online, especially once people actually learn how to like optimize him in whatever way you can try to optimize such a random character. But like it's kind of frustrating for people who
the answer to hero will be Banjo-Kazooie.
Maybe,
somehow.
Yeah, which I don't think really counts for this, but Banjo-Kazooie is out today, I guess. I need to get online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
We just got a message from Timul about that, actually. But yeah, it seems to me that like this is more of a thing like that where Nintendo, I don't know if Sakurai and his team or whoever was working on this was like, we want to make Hero absolutely fucking bonkers, or if this was a thing where like Nintendo said to Sakurai, hey, we want Hero to advertise this game. Yeah, so we need Hero to be
he's got to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
We only have like 16 moves we can put into these guys. Nah, just put everything in one move.
Yeah. Which I feel a little bit uneasy about that because it's like, well, but what if I like playing other characters and it will not feel very good online to play my favorite characters, but realize that like there's just a character who I may not be able to deal with, especially at my skill level, just because I can't predict an RNG machine. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's caused some controversy. I think the character is fun, especially for like, you know, people playing non-competitively. Like it's fun to do silly things and just like there have been people who decided to play Hero Dittos where you just where you're only allowed to use the down B, which is the menu move. So like people take turns doing it.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's just you can do silly things and it's fun, but skill expression kind of takes a hit when a character can do that, and it seems kind of sad. So that's my big thing for this month, I think.
Gotcha.
Because the Smash community is ungodly large in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, I have another thing, but we could keep rotating.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw some stuff out there. I got a couple small things. So. The first thing that I want to say, I'm sort of narrowcasting here because I don't know.
Can I, hey, Colin?
Yeah. Yes, Jeffrey?
Just gauge how interesting you think your stories are, because I think that probably this is for like an outside of showing up on the podcast note. I think the things I'm talking about probably won't be good ending things, just because I don't think they're going to be generally like super interesting to a lot of people. So we don't want to plan around that. Just for your.
All right, Jeff. Two things. One. I'm leaving that in. 2, you're going next. What's up?
3, no metagame.
Going next, like right now, or next, like after you?
Next, right now. Yeah, why don't you go next? I got a couple small things and then one, I guess, sort of big thing. We'll see.
I think if you've got a big thing, that's probably gonna be something good to end on. Not that
wink.
So the first thing that I want to talk about is just an update to my story from last month. The crowdfunded Unicron thing.
All I could think of was the Great Depression, but I knew that was Austin.
2 days. 2 days before before August 31st, which is when it was supposed to end, Hasbro announced that they are extending the deadline to October 6th.
Oh, they really want to make that motherfucker.
Yeah, so this is, led a lot of people to probably correctly assume that this thing is just goddamn getting made, and they're just going to keep pushing it back until... So the reason that they picked October 6th is that's the end of New York Comic Con. But it was actually kind of looking... It was actually kind of looking like it might make it, because like 4 days before, like 4 or 5 days before August 31st, it was still at like 2,000 something, and then it shot up to like 5,000 within the span of like a day and a half, including myself, maybe.
Oh my god,
my boy.
Well, I'm very happy that I don't have to pay $620, which is what it ended up being after tax till October 6th now.
Yeah,
that's really goddamn nice. But so then, like a couple days before the thing, they announced it, and now since that announcement, it's pretty much stayed at 5,000. Like it stopped going up after that, and I assume that it's not going to really go up again until like the week before October 6th too. So I mean, they might generate a lot of hype about it at Comic-Con, but
Well, because
if you have any comments on that, we can talk about it. But
they can take out a prototype or an early model and show people, this is the fucking thing. They can put up a booth and with just like a fucking QR code and download it.
They already actually have had models like at previous like toy fairs and toy shows and stuff like that. So people have seen it.
Oh, okay. But then at least having it after Comic-Con means that like people will be home and they will be able to order it.
Yeah. And it's, just generally a nicer amount of time, like 2 months is, as opposed to just the 1 month, is a nicer amount of time for people to accrue that much money to, or like financially plan to do it. So that was my first thing. The second thing is like it's not so much of a story, but it is something new as of the month of August that I just kind of wanted to talk about. Is I watched the first season of the Dark Crystal series on Netflix.
I watched the first 2 episodes recently. Yeah, so
I enjoyed it.
Don't spoil anything because I
won't spoil it. I won't spoil it. The only thing that I will say,
we kind of know how it ends. They all have to die.
Right. Yeah, the only thing that I will say that is spoilery,
I never saw
the original.
You should see it. It's a nightmare.
So for people who don't know, the Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, which they put on Netflix recently, is actually a prequel series to the Dark Crystal movie from 1982.
A masterpiece of puppetry. Puppetry.
It's a fucking wacky puppet-based movie. Colin, I'm not going to tell you not to watch it, but I straight up do not think you will.
I appreciate that.
Just because
the show or the film or both?
I definitely don't think you'll enjoy the film.
The show more than the film.
Yeah, the show is better than the film. The characters are better, the acting's better. It's still very wacky, and like there's only so much that you can watch it unironically while looking at the fucking stupid ass Gelfling Muppet faces. Because they don't, like, obviously, as much as a real face, portray a great amount of emotion. But getting past that, like the writing, the characters, it's all pretty fun in a sort of wacky sense. The only thing I will say that it's not really like a spoiler, but that there is probably going to be another season of the show because it does not get up to the beginning of the movie.
Where the beginning of the movie, they like literally in the first few lines, they're like the last of the Gelflings.
Yeah, whereas the show is about like all the different tribes of Gelflings and they're very much with alive. The Skeksis, and they're super alive. And like I didn't realize when I started watching it that it was a prequel series. I thought it was just I thought it was just like a retelling of the same story. Yeah, and then I was watching it and I heard that it was a prequel series and I was like, oh, they're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Fuck. But no, it's enjoyable. And like the thing that I actually like about it the most, which is like something that I don't see in a lot of like remakes, especially ones that happen like about 40 years later, is that like it fucking translates really well. Like they updated all the puppets and stuff, but everything
they still make it
looks
look
the
like,
same.
Yeah, it's got fidelity.
Yeah.
What?
Like all the characters look the same, and like they purposefully use sort of like outdated technologies of like the, you know, making the puppets and making it a little bit updated, but like they still move kind of janky, and like obviously their mouths would not be able to produce the sounds. I'm doing a hand puppet motion right now for the audience.
Although something that I do think is that I do feel like they could, with some lines, I feel like they could have puppeted it better, but like I don't know how the mechanics of those puppets work, really, I guess. So I'm just some asshole.
Are you wearing the shirt for the play that you did a puppet?
But it was a lot bigger, so it's,
okay.
Yeah. That was more of like a no.
I think it makes it a little bit easier to do smaller.
Do you think that based on this description, the audience will know what we're talking about?
No.
Which show?
No, that does.
No, I don't.
Maybe some people who know us very well, but
yeah.
I don't go advertising the things I did in high school in my everyday life on social media that no one follows this podcast follows. So like, that's a lot of barriers.
Okay. But I don't know. It's like, it's pretty interesting just because like, you know, obviously it's like all different voice actors, but they picked people that recreated the old voices like really fucking well. Like some of the principal Skeksis that were like kind of bigger characters in the movie, the Skeksis are the villains, like they sound pretty similar, and their puppets, like I literally questioned for a little bit like whether or not the puppet that they used for the Chamberlain was the same puppet.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was.
Also looks like
but
it's
it, like,
just the same thing.
It's identical. Yeah, it literally, you know, it looks like the difference between a movie filmed, like, probably not the 80s, because it looks older than that, but, like, a movie filmed in, like, the fucking, you know, 60s or 70s versus a movie filmed now, whereas, like, obviously everything is crisper, the green screen stuff works better, but, like, all of the environment and the stuff, like, the design of it stayed the same.
Yeah,
which is like
the only other
something
remake...
that always irks me in remakes, like, you know, fucking Wolverine versus like the X-Men movies, where the fucking shape of the goddamn dog tag was different, and like there was no fucking reason to do I don't know. They just had a really good...
And I would like to formally suggest that listeners right now compare this to fucking The Lion King.
Well, okay.
That's a remake, so it doesn't have to stay the same.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
But maybe it should have.
I'm okay with it. It's a different movie, and I never cared a lot for The Lion King, so I saw it in IMAX 3D. I felt more sad when Mufasa died in the new one because it looked like a real cat to me, and I'm like, I just paid $20 to watch a cat die. Who am I?
But like, it didn't look enough like a real cat compared to their general like fake live action animal standards. Like all the live action animals all the quote unquote live action animals in the Jungle Book really fucking looked like animals, whereas in the in Lion King they looked like pretty impressive CGI animals.
I got through the Uncanny Valley a couple times, but like trying to analogize the
aesthetics.
Like how to update aesthetics. When remaking something much later, it is true that a lot of like, okay, so Tron and Tron Legacy, for example, Tron Legacy does not look like Tron. It's not supposed to look like Tron. It was there are in
Tron is very white with blue lines, and Tron Legacy is black with blue lines.
No, there are a lot of like really important things. It feels very similar, but it doesn't look. You don't feel like you're watching the same movie. Sonic Mania, I think, is actually another example of what you're saying with the Dark Crystal, where like on paper, like if you pick it up, you're like, oh, this is exactly like the game that came out 25 years ago. But if you really look at them side by side, you can see how much care went into making those colors pop a bit more, to make the frame rate a little better, to make things more responsive, and like like it looks the same if you're not looking super critically. And I'm always so impressed when people do that across large spans of time, because you're right, you have to use like different makeup technology, different lighting technology and then that doesn't always work with 4K camera technology, especially when most shows on Netflix are shooting digital versus shooting on film, and that totally changes the color gamut, and that there's so much that goes into it that like I'm probably not going to watch the show, but like that's encouraging. Like I like hearing I like hearing that someone accomplished
like the whole
that.
thing is like, if I could say one thing about it, is like it feels very sincere to the original.
Yeah.
Right? Like updating the things that needed to be updating and keeping the things that needed to be the way they were, bad qualities and all, which is like, I'm appreciative of it.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been horrifying to see,
oh my god, like
CGI Gelflings.
Skeksis.
Yeah, no, very bad. Also Skeksis, yeah. But I mean, they're already horrifying, so it's not like, oh, it's a different kind of horrifying, but at least it was supposed to be.
So, I'm gonna throw in a couple of my things. I'm gonna talk a couple small things first. First, also piggybacking on the Netflix side of things, for those of you who are not aware, the Great British Baking Show has another collection dropping on Netflix, which in and of itself I think people need to know because it is a show that people should watch. But they are not dropping the entire season at once. And I haven't really looked into all the details on this. They're doing it weekly because it's a competition show. Each week somebody gets eliminated. Right. And I will say, I've watched everything of the Great British Baking Show on Netflix. And I love each season, and I like have my favorites, and the people who get kicked off, I'm always like, oh, that's sad. But then it all falls out of my brain after, like all binges do, where like I don't remember the names of any of the contestants I really liked in the show, even though I know all their faces and like some of their best dishes. But I'm kind of excited that the show is going to be weekly. Maybe this will stick in my brain a bit longer. They're going to be doing this with this and another licensed competition show. And I also watch Patriot Act, which is another weekly show. So Netflix is sort of starting to diversify their release schedules, and I think that's going to actually make the experience better for some of these. Watch Great British Baking Show. Yeah, it's very nice. It's very good. It's heartwarming and kind and better than any American competition show.
That's not a particularly high
it's
bar,
not.
in my opinion.
It's really not. And maybe that's why I'm like, oh my God, a good one? One where it's not like, it's like go to a commercial break and then it's like, somebody's gonna die. And then it cuts to commercial.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just all American competition shows just want to be WWE, and I'm not sure why.
Oh, man. Yeah, there is, Paul Hollywood does have a Great American Baking Show as well. I haven't watched it because it's not on any streaming services, but I fucking bet you it's got like that survival style, who's gonna get baked off the tent sort of thing.
Yeah,
right. Like they want to keep it as like super reality TV as possible, and have all a bunch of interpersonal drama between stupid people.
And the beauty of Great British Baking Show, there's no interpersonal drama. It's a bunch of people in a tent who love to bake, and they all want each other to bake really well. The tension is, are they bad at baking? And that's so much better than the editors thinking fucking Debbie and Patel have some ancient beef. So I don't know. I'm very pro this. Y'all should check it out. There was another small thing I wanted to touch on. Another podcast I listened to, Story Break. It's by Rocket Jump. So Freddie Wong and his cadre of professionals. They have VGHS people. They have a podcast called Story Break. And the concept up till now has been each week they have a topic and they have an hour to break the story for a film pitch, basically. And they've had some where they do very well. Their first episode is Legend of Zelda. It was pretty good. They also tried Sonic the Hedgehog. It was pretty bad. And as time's gone on, they've done like over 100 of those, and they just changed their formula recently. And I really think it's a cool thing to do in a podcast form, so I kind of want to spotlight it. They took their favorite pitch from all their episodes called Heaven Heist. The concept was there's something. Freddie Wong is of Chinese descent, so he was talking about the idea that when people die and go to the afterlife, people in real life will burn money and burn things with so that they will, it's fake money, but like they burn it, and once it's burned, it is sent up to them in heaven. So the concept was a movie where people die and go to heaven to steal the money that people are sending there.
That's really
It's a really cool idea, and it was a great episode, and they've changed their format. They are now actually writing the script one scene at a time each week. So they're no longer breaking stories. They're writing an entire film script in a podcast. And it's like an interesting exercise in creative writing and script writing for people who don't always know how it works. It's a really cool behind the scenes of it. But I've been digging it. Story Break Season 2 Heaven Heist. Super fun. Super duper fun. Really good time.
That's awesome.
The last thing I want to touch on is a game called Control, which I have just started playing.
It looks pretty from all of the promotional shit.
Oh, it's very pretty. I'm playing it on the Xbox One X, on which it runs decently well. The thing is, the game is so bonkers high-end on PC, it's like one of the first like really effective uses of real-time ray tracing that like the Xbox One X of the consoles is the most powerful. But if you're really going to get the most out of it, you need a ridiculous PC, because I think only the newest NVIDIA GeForce cards support real-time ray tracing.
Colin, are you telling me that the most effective use of ray tracing is not like super ridiculous Minecraft texture packs and like
so real-time ray tracing, think about the way light works in real life. I know that sounds patronizing, but give me a second.
And I gotta say, I'm not sure if it would actually be a texture pack that you do the ray tracing shit with. I'm not sure
but
how
there
all
was
of these Minecraft mods work together, but like I've seen images and it's disgusting.
Oh, well, I think it's beautiful, but ray tracing...
yeah, it is beautiful, but it's disgusting. I think like conceptually that like this much you're just putting that into Minecraft. Sorry, continue.
Okay. What's the thing? Ray tracing is the idea that in a video game, usually things rely on what's called volumetric lighting. Volumetric lighting is the idea that there's a light source, and the way that the light reflects off of things is determined usually just by like measuring a space. And
it's all
that's
about the cone.
Yeah, and so a lot of times that's why shadows aren't very realistic, because it's not like shooting a ray of light at someone and then it's being broken. It's that the entire space is being lit by the relationship between the light source and each point in the volume. Ray tracing,
just some funky geometry.
Yes, ray tracing is the way light really works, which is there's a source and it shoots out light in a direction.
And it diffracts and it does crazy
shit.
Yes,
so real-time ray tracing means that graphics technology has finally gotten fast enough where in the response time it takes to play a video game, it can measure light coming off of a source and reflecting off of something the way it would water or a mirror, or being broken by a shadow. So it's extremely realistic lighting. And if there's a Star Wars demo where they do a real-time ray tracing demo with Captain Phasma's armor, because it's so chrome and reflective, and like it looks like movie CG, but it's actually being rendered in real time. And ray tracing has been around for a long time in film effects, but it was never fast enough for games. And Control on consoles does not have ray tracing because they're not powerful enough for that yet. That's coming next year. But allegedly. But the that's the reason it looks so good on PC. But aside from the very beautiful nature of the game, it is by a studio called Remedy, and they made Quantum Break and Alan Wake, and those rhymed, and I didn't realize that till now. And they are known for crafting like very compelling narratives, games that are not so much about like, Halo's got a good story, but you could mute the TV and just blow shit up. These stories are really made better by the storytelling, by the environmental storytelling, by the character performances. And this is set in a building it's called the Oldest House. It's part of the Federal Bureau of Control, where they have all these objects of power that are related to an alternate plane, the astral plane. And it's just the game so far, I've played maybe about 6 hours of it. Just not even a total mindfuck, but just like so hard to get a beat on what's happening. It is creepy, it is atmospheric, and the shooting is fun. It's a third-person shooter, and you have Star Wars Force-like powers with telekinesis and like jumping from place to place. I wish I could say more about it, but I wouldn't want to spoil it, and I haven't finished it yet, even if I could. But the guys at Remedy know what they're doing. I really liked Quantum Break. They also do this thing where they mix games with live action. There was this creepy fucking puppet show in the game where they're like, it was like some weird internal propaganda for why people shouldn't take objects of power out of the bureau, and it's just these disgusting puppets screaming at each other like, "You're not supposed to do that!"
Oh, that's like Dark
Crystal. Yeah, exactly. Okay,
yeah.
Is that how they... Is that the same technology? No, it's a very good game. It's single player only, but if anybody is like looking for a solid single player story, it is so easy to get sucked into this world. Also, it's like the building is brutalist architecture, so just a lot of concrete right angles, but they somehow make it so interesting because things will like shapeshift and move, and the spaces are like really fun to move around. I'm blown away. It seems like it should be very simple, but it is so well executed. Control is great.
Nice. Beautiful. Sounds fun.
I think we're were about good. I want to move us into the ratings now, though. So we're going to talk about what we think the top story of the month is. And again, on Scope, I'm just going to put it out there. Whether I like it or not, I think Spider-Man being ripped out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the most culturally important thing. That doesn't mean we have to make it our top story, but I want to get that out of the way. Do you guys think that that deserves the spot, or should we be the journalists we never claimed to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a perfect world, I wouldn't want to give Disney that much airtime. But we're not in a perfect world. Yeah, I mean, like they've put us in this position, haven't they? You know, we have to tell the people about what's happening out in the world and the things they're going to care about. And you know, a lot of people care about these video games and Transformers, but there are a lot more people who buy tickets to movies because they like movies or because they have children.
This is quite the research paper.
Anyway, yeah, no, I'm going with the
All right.
the Sony Disney Spider-Man.
Cool.
No?
Yeah.
News.
Well, I mean, that's 2-1. Jeff, do you agree with that as being the top story?
Here's my response.
Oh my god.
You couldn't trust me to edit it in. You had to do that to my ears right now. You couldn't trust me to edit that in. You had to do that to my ears right now.
Yeah, I don't know how that sounded for you, and I couldn't hear your reactions because I had to mute both of you on Skype so that the sound could come out of my computer.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Is it worth trying to determine a runner-up since this was such a such a
it might be.
I'd be down for that.
Well then, how's about this? I'm voting for Hero because Smash Bros is such a reputable franchise for its sprawling but well-balanced sandbox. And there are few games where so much attention is paid to the minutia of those balancing things on such a large scale that I can't believe someone at Nintendo was just like, fuck it, who cares? Just break the game and then unbreak it all in the same character.
Man, they do that with Pokemon on such a regular fucking frequency that it doesn't surprise me. I mean, and I know that's not entirely like Nintendo, like, you know, Game Freak too, but like, yeah, no, I still agree.
Yep.
Like, I think that like that's probably the second most important story for me this month. Is just like,
yeah,
that's
you're
fucking
gonna
crazy,
have
man.
to try out Hero, and you may or may not have to enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't affect me a whole lot since I don't play competitive, but I can appreciate for, you know, people who do how that it just kind of throws a wrench in.
Yeah.
But it is also kind of humorous seeing people get pissed off about it.
Yep, no, it sure is.
It has resulted in some very funny clips, at least from competitive matches. Like, so you'll have the ones where the Hocus Pocus turns into the kamikaze self-destruct thing, and so like, oh yeah, someone ended up losing the match that they should have won because the kamikaze kills you before it kills the enemy, or like, you know, they get a big magic burst and oh, everyone's dead except for them. But my favorite so far has been there was this one where this guy shot himself. He used the ability that shoots you up into the sky and back down for on a different place in the map on the stage, and like it threw him right down onto an explosive attack that someone else was using.
Oh my god!
Like, and he had no control over that. You just hit that button and you died. It was so like things like that'll be fun. It'll be less fun
that's
for
how I've
when
been
it works out
feeling
in
in
Hero's
Remnant
favor.
sometimes, Austin, the game that you got me playing, which is like, it's a fun game, I'm enjoying it, but there are a lot of instances where the game is like, oh, you reload, so I'm gonna push you, but before you recover from the push, I'm gonna push you again, and while you're getting pushed a second time, I'm gonna cut you in half. And I'm like, I just needed another bullet. That wasn't very nice. it's all rough.
That's
but anyway, I think that about wraps it up. So top story, Spider-Man out of the MCU. Runner-up, Hero is a fucking disaster. Thank you for listening to the Common Briefing Program. I have been Colin Ketchen. You can find me online at SonicColinK on multiple platforms. And I'm joined by
me, Austin Liebers. We're doing the same thing. I gave you my full name, so you might be able to find me. I may also like have a real Twitter at some point because Brooke keeps showing me things from Twitter, and I might just like go to
I've been
Twitter
trying to like
follow
I've been
her
trying to
and then
chat
be
with
able to
Pat a
do
bit
that.
more, so if you could get on and like help me draw him out, because he tweets a lot about fantasy football and hockey, and I need to change the dialogue on him.
God. Yeah.
You need to drown out some of that with more geek centric.
All right,
things.
and you are strange kind
yeah,
sir.
you certainly don't know who I am. because I didn't introduce myself in the beginning of the episode. My name is Jeff Leavitt, and I've got an Instagram. It's called Things I Wish Existed, and there's a dot between each word. Hi, Brooke. She can't hear me.
No, she can't.
Tell her I said hi, Austin.
He's muting himself to tell her that we said hello.
I don't get it.
Why must this be verboten from us?
I didn't want to interrupt you, so I thought you could just keep doing your outro thing.
It was much more disruptive to go silent.
It's all gone to shit. That's my Instagram. I do like visual art stuff up on there, and that's pretty much the only place to really
awesome.
find
So
it.
we'll be back in 2 weeks with. I know that things have been sort of like a drip feed lately, but we will have one more episode that we have in the can from Common Geeking Program. Next month, we're going to have Jeff back leading a sort of a new format with Common Geeking Program, and we'll sort of, we've touched on it, but we'll fill out more of the details then. Jeff, I'm excited to see you take it to the stars, baby. Mwah.
I hope that works out.
So, I mean, the Common Geeking Program, we're still going bi-weekly, usually first, third Friday of every month. I just spent like an hour and a half today kind of cleaning up the website, making sure stuff is current and a little easier to find. CommonGeekingProgram.com. It's now also easier to find the other shows we have, which are Dice Populi, which is a tabletop game that a bunch of us make, and it's a ton of work, but it's super fun. And How You Doing, which is a show I make with Laura about how hard it is to stay friends as an adult. So check those out too, but the website should have everything you need if you want to share the show. It's become a really easy landing page for people to hop on board. Other than that, I am super ready to end this podcast.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Fuck yeah, dude. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. This episode of the Common Geeking Program is hosted by me, Colin Ketchen, and I've been joined by Jeff Leavitt and Austin Liebers. This episode is sponsored by ketosis. I haven't eaten bread in a month. Fuck everything. The podcast is created by myself, Jeff, and Patrick Brehm. It is produced and edited by me, Colin, with original music also by me. We'll be back in 2 weeks with what should be the last episode of the previous book club format, and you can also check out more at CommonGeekingProgram.com, where we have info about this show and Dice Populi and How You Doing. Between the three, you're bound to find something you like, and you can share it with anyone else who may. So please check that out, and thank you for listening to this.
Gelfling.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't like that.
That's a reference from the Dark
I
Crystal,
gathered as much. I
know,
still
Colin.
did not like that.
Yeah, you're
I don't
not
think
gonna
you're
like
supposed
it
to.
when you watch the movie either.
All right, cool. I'm going to stop my recording.